Welcome, everyone, to the fields at Southern Virginia University. I'm Jim Bresnahan, joined by Mike Harmon, getting ready to bring you men's soccer action. Southern Virginia getting ready to host Bridgewater. The Eagles of Bridgewater coming to town today as the Knights, with one victory on the season, Mike, are looking for their first home victory of the season.
Yeah, and they're going up against a Bridgewater Eagles team that may not look very tough with their record 1-3-1, but they did beat Salisbury, who was ranked number 12 in the nation last week.
Yeah, they've only played, I believe, 5 games, and
Yes.
had a very tough loss this past weekend to Washington Lee.
Yeah, they've been right there in a lot of the games. They've lost to North Carolina Wesleyan. They've tied Junetta. They've lost to Frostburg. They've beat Salisbury and lost to Washington and Lee.
And like some of the teams we've seen this year, the opposition, and for that matter, I guess at times the Knights, they've just been having problems getting some offense.
Yeah, just not being able to score a lot of goals. We'll take a quick break for the national anthem.
So we've had our national anthem, and we're ready to go here from the fields at Southern Virginia University. And Mike, how's that starting lineup looking for the Knights tonight? Because it looks like Mullaball will not play again today.
Yeah, they're keeping him out a little bit, but it looks like they've really trying to start all their goal scorers. First, number 2, Alexander Drubay. Number 5, Colin Flynn. Number 6, Gabriel Ramirez. Number 7, Carlos Munoz. Number 10, Josh Smith. Number 11, Greg Allen. Number 13, Nick Francis. Number 16, Court Cox. Number 20, Noah Hogan. Number 26, Christian Rice. And number 32 in goal, Keenan Carroll.
Is that softball practice I see in the background?
Yeah, it's a non-traditional season. They get there 4 or 5 weeks in, and they get to practice like every other day.
Yeah, a couple of days ago, I thought I saw the lacrosse players warming up a little bit too. So
they're getting some practice in also.
Speaking of other sports, we've got volleyball coming up tomorrow night, 7 o'clock. You and Art Fuller will have that from the Night Sports Arena.
Yeah, it'll be the first game in for the ladies that we're going to be broadcasting. They've had earlier games this year. We're looking forward to seeing the team, although they've had some setbacks with some injuries, just like everybody else. They've lost some players, some key players, and when you don't have a lot of players, that really hurts.
And of course, yesterday on this very same field, we saw women's soccer action as the Knights were able to hang on down the stretch in a 4-3 victory over Averett, a game where it was 4-3 at halftime, and neither team scored in the second half.
Yeah, kind of strange that they were able to score so many goals in the first half and then not score any goals in the second half. And I talked to Coach Graurock about that, and he said, we played horrible in the first half, just absolutely dreadful, and scored 4 goals.
Yeah.
And he said he didn't know how they scored the 4 goals. And then in the second half, he says we played a lot better, more cohesive. Couldn't score anything. Couldn't even get any real good shots off. So he's kind of worried a little bit about if we play really good, we don't score anything. If we play lousy, we score. So he's at the crossroads now of what do I tell him to do.
And the only problem is, well, there's actually many problems. I mean, health is right up there because health is causing some of these problems. Obviously, Hardy, I thought in goal, struggled in the first half with her clears and led to a couple of goals. On the flip side, the positives last night, a couple of goal scorers, including Gamby, and it was a situation where they had two players score 2 goals, and again, all of the goal scoring for both teams in the first half scoreless, and the Knights and the Averett Ball Club, the Cougars, scoreless in the second half, and the Knights kind of had to hang on down the stretch to that 1-goal victory.
Yeah, I thought, or we both thought maybe Gamby or McFadden would get a hat trick last night after them scoring 2 goals in the first half each. Just a lot of new players in new positions and trying to get used to each other. You know, Savannah Urai's out at least until the middle of next week. Tatiana Monson's out until she gets her MRI read and sees what's going on with her knee. So they don't know when she'll be back. And Jackie Barlow's out with a broken nose and a cut on the bridge of her nose and has some stitches. So they're in a little bit of transition right now.
And here, the men's team, again, as we mentioned at the very beginning, they're looking for their first home victory. Their only victory of the season came September the 15th at Ferrum, a 1-0 victory. They've played 3 pretty tough opponents in their last 3 home games. September the 9th, a 3-1 loss to Washington Lee. September the 12th, a 3-0 loss to Widener. And most recently, September the 17th, a very tough 3-1 loss to Roanoke, a game that the Knights actually led at halftime 1-0.
Yeah, just some bad luck got them. But they're going to be able to see tonight kind of where they are because Bridgewater College has played some Capital Conference foes. They've played Salisbury and they played Frostburg, and then the common opponent that they've had is Washington and Lee. And Bridgewater lost to Washington Lee 2-1. That was just on Saturday. They did beat Salisbury, who again was ranked number 12 in the nation at the time.
Then unfortunately, just a few days ago, they were supposed to play St. Mary's. I guess the rain must have come and wiped out the first game of the St. Mary's Classic. Otherwise, they would have been able to give a good idea of not only how good Bridgewater is, but how good St. Mary's might be on Saturday.
Oh, and I'm sure that Coach Patino would have been calling them about a scouting report. Right after that, I know he's maybe just a little bit disappointed that he's not going to be able to get that from Bridgewater.
Because, again, the Knights will be going men's and women's soccer coming up on Saturday with a doubleheader at Bridgewater, the capital opener for both teams, and going to be very interesting to see. You just hope that the Knights men's and women's team will maybe, if not be 100% healthy, certainly healthier than they are right now.
Yeah, that's the big key, is make sure that everybody's healthy when they go up to St. Mary's. Long trip, but if they can get the win, it'll be well worth it and an enjoyable ride home.
See if these two teams here starting this first minute of play, Mike, how conservative they might be, just kind of doing a feeling out process and maybe just trying to get a little warmed up themselves.
Yeah, we noticed that both teams got on the field a little bit later than they really wanted to and started their warm-ups a little bit later. So we'll probably take about 5-10 minutes for them to really get into the flow of the game. Long over the top pass, and we've noticed earlier on the season that that's been really a problem for the Knights.
Washington Lee was able to really effectively score in that mode. Of course, Kenny Carroll's been a tremendous goalie here in the opening half of the season for the Knights.
Oh, he's been absolutely tremendous. We said several times that he has been kind of like standing on his head, but the Knights' defense has really put him in a lot of precarious positions.
There's Munoz with it for the Knights as they try to work it upfield. Ramirez tried to get that pass, couldn't track it down though.
Again, these small little mistakes by letting balls pass by them has been something that the Knights have paid dearly for, both on the men and the women's team.
Just no way, I guess, right now, Mike, to predict when Mugalabal might be ready to go.
No, this is his ankle is just not healing as fast as he would like. And again, with a sprain, sometimes doctors tell you that it's better to break a bone than it is to have a sprain around a joint like the ankle, because you just never know how fast or how slow it's going to heal.
That's with some short passing, try to work it upfield. Ramirez has it towards the middle.
So we can see since the last time that we saw the Knights, they've really been working on their possession.
They work it up to Francis on the right side momentarily. Header back towards the middle of the field.
There's those long seam passes that was great for Washington Lee against the Knights. Hopefully the Knights have taken that to heart on defense and won't let those seam passes really destroy their defense.
Knights had possession, lost it. Now Bridgewater's got it in the offensive end on the right side. Shot towards the goal, sails over the head of the goalkeeper and the bar.
And as long as Keenan stays back in goal on those long shots, there's no way that they can get a ball over his head. You saw that his hand was way above the top of the goal there. He's able to punch those out pretty easily.
Yeah, I would imagine about the only way that kind of shot would work is if a goalie is out of position and just too far away from the goal and isn't able to scramble back in time.
Well, they showed a clip of a game over in England where they were coming just right across the midfield. The goalie was out about 10-15 yards away from the goal, and the guy just struck it just right, put it over the top of the goalie's head and put it in. So it was about a 60-yard kick.
And I don't know, would they turn that a 1 in a million shot?
Well,
or at least 1 in 10,000?
When you're a professional, you think every one of your shots are going in.
I don't know if that's the record for the longest shot.
Oh, probably not. There's been several teams that have pulled goalies to get more attackers at the late stages
so then
of the
maybe
game.
a 100-yard shot?
There could be. It's kind of like when the hockey teams pull their goalie and you just kind of slap it down towards the end from one end of the field to the or ice to the other.
Right, yeah.
Goal kick coming up for the Knights. And again, no real attacks from either side. Again, like you said, Jim, they're filling each other out, trying to find those little weaknesses that they can exploit later on in the game.
And the good news is tonight, again, facing an ODAC team like Bridgewater, the Knights have really battled the two other ODAC teams here recently that they've played. Pretty tough in Washington Lee and also Roanoke College. Washington Lee and, of course, Southern Virginia a few weeks back tied with about 11 minutes to go in that game. And Washington Lee getting its third goal to actually pull away from a one goal victory to a 2-goal victory with just seconds on the clock. And, of course, against Roanoke College, the Knights have that 1-0 halftime lead.
Nice pass ahead by Munoz to Drouet.
Back to the middle. Munoz left it go, and a high shot over the goalkeeper.
By Allen, Greg Allen. And he just wound up and got his foot all into that one. Unfortunately, too much underneath it and sailed it.
We played 6 minutes. And no real close shots for either team right now. Very few shots in those opening 6 minutes for either team.
Yeah, a lot of possession back and forth in the middle third. Knights are trying to attack long down the near sideline, but the Eagles are able to shut that down.
Hogan tries to go to the middle. Ramirez has it now. Running into a crowd, though, with really nowhere to go.
Yeah, tried to get it back out. Unfortunately, not enough steam put on the ball. And it looks like the Knights defense is really getting a lot more organized since the last time we've seen them.
And Bridgewater trying to make a push down the right side.
Good job by Court Cox. Slide tackle there, getting the ball out of bounds.
This game starting at 6 o'clock. It might be a little heated out there for some of the players, the opening hour, but maybe the second half it might be a little cool too.
Yeah, well, once you get into the shaded part of the field, everything's good. But unfortunately, the shaded part of the field is the Knights' defensive end. So we don't want them hanging out down there, getting down into the sun.
Pass into the middle.
Having offsides now. Carroll with the free kick.
So, Mike, it's going to be a very busy sports weekend coming up on Saturday the 26th with the football team playing at Salisbury. And, of course, both soccer teams in action on the road at St. Mary's. All road action.
All road action. And also on the volleyball side, they are away. They'll be at Virginia State on Friday and Chowan in North Carolina on Saturday.
And Randolph, as you mentioned, the opponent coming up tomorrow night, 7 o'clock. And your first webcast along with Art of the volleyball, and it's going to be interesting to see how they have adapted to, again, unfortunately, as we've been talking about, injuries.
Yeah, unfortunate against Washington and Lee in their tournament, just warming up. Caitlin Toulousik, their 3-year starter at setter, just in warm-ups, tore ACL, just turned the wrong way. Leg didn't go with her and shot on goal.
Fades off to the right.
And Carroll was there just in case.
Made a dive, but that was a good several feet away from the bar.
Now, you never want to leave anything to chance. But so far, that may have been the best attack that we've seen on either side.
You know, in the Knights, as we mentioned, as far as games getting out of hand, about the only time that's really happened was that 6-1 loss at Randolph, and that was a game where the Knights were down 4-0, scored to make it 4-1, and then Randolph added a couple of late goals.
Now, they may have been caught trying to press a little bit in that second half, or especially late in the second half, trying to catch up, and just got caught on some counterattacks.
But you got to figure Coach Patino really wants to get the offense going for capital play.
Oh, definitely. They've only scored 4 goals in 7 games, and you're not going to win a lot of matches like that.
Yeah, women soccer, same deal here at Southern Virginia University. Up until last night's 4-goal explosion, their offense has been hard to come by.
Yeah, I'm sure that Coach Gryrock and his coaching staff would love to have 4 goals a game.
But apparently they have to play badly to do that.
Apparently, and I don't know if he can handle that. So
I didn't think they played that bad offensively. It was more defensively, the clears and whatnot. And I guess you could say to a certain degree, maybe those first 2 goals on the breakaways by Jamila Gamby were mistakes made. Maybe, I guess, potentially by Averett.
Well, I just don't think they knew how fast Jamila really was, and just
and McFadden's 2 goals maybe took them a little off guard as well.
Well, McFadden, one of her goals was just a great pass back to the middle from Ann Powell.
Yeah. And the other one was a shot down the right side where she put it right by not only the goalie, but took away from a defender as a Bridgewater player is knocked to the turf.
We got time here. They're going to call Josh Smith over, talk to him, and see if they give him a card or not. Oh, just a warning. But again, a free kick about 40 yards away from the goal. Got to be very careful with any kind of redirections coming off of Bridgewater Eagles' heads.
Let's see how Bridgewater plays this. They take a shot at the goal, knocked away.
Yeah, Greg Allen was able to get up, but unfortunately off of him out. So for a first corner kick for either team tonight. You can see the Knights trying to get organized there.
Towards the middle and headed in. That was just a perfect pass. And I'm not sure there's a whole lot the Knights or Carroll, the goalkeeper, could have done about that one.
I don't think Carroll could have done anything about it, but that's all on the Knights defenseman who was marking that player. I think it was number 21. We'll have to check that out.
Is that more just stats. Really, Mike, about just a perfect pass? And even the defender, I don't know what else you could do outside of the fact that if you're about as tall as he is, get right in his face and not allow him to do what he did to get that ball in the goal.
Well, you have to redirect him and not let him get a straight run at the goal. Derek Newsom for the Eagles was able to put that in with no real defense played on him or having to redirect his run toward the goal.
Had a big opening goal here for the Eagles. as the Knights have struggled here in the opening 12 minutes or so to get their offense going, to even actually really have a good look at a goal.
And unfortunately, this has been a thing that the Knights have kind of fallen into this season, is getting behind early and then trying to fight out of the hole that they dug.
Yeah, here's a breakaway. Shot, what a
Nice
save by Carroll.
job by Carroll.
Boy, if he doesn't make that save, it's suddenly 2-0.
And again, there's that seam pass in between the three back defenders that the Knights have.
Knights came in with a record of 1-6. Bridgewater also just one win on the season. Nice play by Bridgewater to take the ball away from Southern Virginia, and they're back on the attack.
Nice job by Court Cox. And there's what we're talking about. Court redirected the player from Bridgewater running straight into the goal. Yeah, that's what you have to do when the player doesn't have the ball, especially on corner kicks.
Andrew Bay is hit from behind, whistle. I think that was Newsom who scored the goal, and he looks like he's got some moves. Good athlete.
And Newsom again, they're saying that was Renato Gergich that scored the goal. Newsom had the last shot on goal that Carroll was able to save.
Grigich, a sophomore from Roanoke. Played at Patrick Henry High School. Ramirez will try to knock it through, but it goes way left.
So
2 shots on goal for now for Bridgewater, Mike. Still no shots on goal for the Knights.
And unfortunately, the offense just is chugging along. No real fluid movements that we saw, especially in the last game when we saw that beautiful goal that the Knights had, where there was 3 1-touches and then the goal happened. We're just not seeing that tonight.
You look at the schedule, of course, a lot of games here in September, a lot of non-conference games. Then you look ahead to October, and in a very short period of time, within 3 weeks or so, a lot of capital home games coming up for both of the men's and women's team. Mostly doubleheaders, except I think around the homecoming weekend.
Yeah, everything is a Wednesday, Saturday now. So, and when they get into conference play, those games happen very, very fast.
Although I believe on homecoming, because of the football game on the 10th, they'll have a game after the football game and a game on that Friday right before the Saturday home football game against Montclair. Knights trying to go on the attack here, trailing again 1-0.
Nice job by Ramirez to get it to Munoz,
who tried to thread it through a couple of defenders ahead, but was unable to do so. But he was able to maintain control of it. Some fancy footwork trying to get it into the middle.
Yeah, he tried to get it over to Josh Smith, and unfortunately just not able to handle it. But the Knights are able to gain control again.
Francis trying to get it over the middle and could not do so.
And unfortunately, the Eagles' defense looks like when it gets back and gets set, it's very stout and hard to score against.
Cox with a throw-in.
Long throw-in.
Munoz tried to head it into the goal, unable to do so.
But they get a corner kick, so now let's see what type of set piece that the Knights have, and looks like that's going to be Greg Allen that's going to take it.
No, was that Josh
Smith? Sorry.
Yep, Smith going to try from the right side. Corner kick is how Bridgewater got its first goal just a few minutes ago. This one's relatively high, though, an attempt at a headshot, a header, and off to the left.
And that
one was just a little too high as far as the pass was concerned. It was the right idea, pretty much what Bridgewater had done, but that pass kind of sailed Mike a little bit.
Yeah, it looks like Court Cox got up there, and he was the one that got his head on it. And, again, just a tremendous athlete, has a very good vertical jump. If they're going to try to go to him, it'd be much better to get it into the goal box itself and let him try to hit it in instead of being outside the goal box.
You know, when you look at the practices for the men's team here in the last couple of weeks, have they really worked on their defense against corner kicks?
Well,
I know that was a concern earlier in the season.
They always try to work on it, but when, again, you start getting into some injury situations, and we talked about this earlier, when you play against your own teammates, you know what their weaknesses are and you know exactly what they're going to do. So your defense can look really good in practice, but when you get into games, that's when you can tell.
Nice defensive play there by the Knights to take away the ball without a whistle. Now it's Drubay trying to work it up. And a little too far for Josh Smith to track down that pass.
It seems that the Eagles just use the whole field a little bit better right now than the Knights are trying to use the whole field.
And they seem to be on the same page, at least in this first half, as far as their passes from teammate to teammate might be concerned.
Well, again, continuity is a huge issue that every team wants to have. The Knights have had to bring in some freshmen and transfers that weren't with them last year. They're trying to assimilate very quickly, but until you can play with the same person for a year, you really don't have that fluid movement that we're seeing some of these other teams have.
No substitutions thus far. We played almost 20 minutes.
And we also talked
and
about.
Here's a breakout, Mike, on the left side. Nice defense by the Knights momentarily to stop a shot from getting off. Now they'll bring it back outside. And it's Carroll able to make the save and control the ball before Newsom got there for a rebound shot.
Nice job by Keenan to go down to his knees. It played off his chest and then scramble to get it before we could see the ball go in.
Because if that rebound comes out just a few yards further out, it's right in Newsom's wheelhouse, and maybe it's a 2-0 game at that point. Flynn lost it.
And unfortunately, the Knights, again, not a lot of upperclassmen. They still don't have a senior on the team, and the rest of these teams that we're playing very upperclassmen heavy. The Knights, again, in one of these rebuilding stages where Coach Patino came in last year. This is his second year of rebuilding the Knights soccer program, so he's trying to build a little bit at a time.
Another dangerous corner kick, this time from the right side. Bridgewater's goal just a few minutes ago came from the left side on a corner kick. This one towards the middle, no one there, sails high. Ramirez able to track it down. And he tries to explode with the speed and loses the ball.
So Ramirez got warned there. And a free kick for Bridgewater, but right near the midfield, so not a lot of danger, but you can never fall asleep.
Let's see if they try to get it in deep. They will. Headshot or header, and it goes off to the right, Mike. And again, if that is a glancing shot back to the left,
it may sneak by Keenan, but he was right there.
Didn't expect that from 45 yards away, did you?
Yeah, that's kind of the difference between the male and the female end of the sport. And now the stats people are telling us that Gabe Ramirez got a yellow card on that last play.
Yeah, we saw the referee pull out the card. Haven't seen a whole lot of yellow cards, men's or women's games here so far in September.
No, and maybe the referees are trying to tighten things up now.
Knights try to pass it deep. Goes to Munoz in the middle. Doesn't have a whole lot of teammates to work around with him, though. Shot deflected away by Bridgewater. Hogan taking that. Well, despite the lack of offense, we played over 20 minutes, Mike, and even though the Knights trail here 1-0, they're still right in the game.
Yeah, there's
But no shots on goal.
No panic yet. That's the key that I'm sure Coach Patino is worried about, just not being able to crack the Eagles' defense. And that goal that was scored so quickly in the first half may have some of the defenders of the Knights a little bit gun-shy. They want to stay back far enough, and that's why no one is making the runs, especially last time we saw with Carlos Munoz.
Ramirez gets it into the left side. Back towards the middle, no one there. Tracked down by the Bridgewater goalkeeper.
And that may have been one of those opportunities that the Knights should take advantage of and maybe anticipated a little bit more as bringing someone in on the backside.
Munoz tries to go on the attack and bring it up the left side.
Got the ball just a little bit ahead to Drebay. Drebay's not able to get a good shot on goal as he was sandwiched by two defenders. But again, the Knights get another corner kick.
Josh Smith will take it. Well, you mentioned this Bridgewater defense, and it seems every time the Knights try to make a break in the middle of the field, especially towards the goal, there's at least one, maybe two defenders right on that player.
Yeah, they collapse on the ball very well and get organized extremely fast on the defensive side.
Francis will kick it back. Now upfield, up the left side.
Again, the Eagles just, anytime they feel a threat, they'll get the ball out for a throw-in for the Knights, but then you can see the defense get back and get set and organized. And I just don't know if the Knights have enough firepower to score against an organized Eagles defense.
We mentioned Milbaugh, no way to tell exactly when he'll be back, but offensively, potentially, what could he mean for this team to try to jumpstart this Knights offense?
Well, he'd be the one that you really want to look for on the corner kicks because he's about 6'2", 6'3", and such a wide-shouldered body that he's able to carve out a lot of room. And if you can get the ball close to him, he could head it in very easily. So corner kicks is where they miss him a lot.
Shot saved by the goalkeeper. Munoz taking that shot from about 15, 20 yards away. Actually about 30 yards.
But that's where the Knights are going to have to score. They're going to have to score on some type of transition or counterattack unless they can really increase their accuracy of their passing and spread this Eagle defense out.
There's Josh Smith towards the middle of the field. Looks for an opening about 30 yards out. Back to the right, trying to get it through, but Bridgewater able to knock away that pass. Ramirez. Now Greg Allen.
We'll have a throw in here, I believe, or did they call it? Nope, it's a corner kick. So if we watch, most times, especially if they try to go high, look for Court Cox come in just flying into the middle.
See if Josh Smith can get this exactly where he wants. This is, I believe, it's his third corner kick in the last couple of minutes, all from the right side.
Yeah, unfortunately, that makes the ball curve away from the goal, though.
Header attempted by the Knights, can't make a play. Follow shot, no good, way off. Substitution, I believe.
Oh, and mass substitutions for the Eagles. We'll get those in just a few seconds as they put them up on the board
you'll see
for
one
us.
or two, not three or four. Of course, when you're dealing with injuries, as the Knights women's and men's team are, that's another area where you're really kind of hurting, is just being able to bring players in off the bench.
Well, and Coach Patino changes his philosophy, not philosophy, but his way he wants to play from game to game. We saw one game where hardly any substitutions. Next game we got them, massive substitutions just in and out. So according to who they play, that's how many substitutions they're going to have. Some substitutions that just happened for Bridgewater. Max Chacon's in for Connor Henderson. Noah Malpass in for Ethan McBride. Ben Lewis in for Renato Gergic. And Austin White in for Jonathan Min.
4 fresh bodies in for the Eagles, and we'll see if that makes a difference, especially when it comes to their offense as they lead here 1-0.
Free kick here, as one of the Knight defenders had a handful of jersey. And we've seen that nowhere is safe when the Eagles are past midfield. They'll look to attack the goal.
A near miss from what about almost 50 yards away.
Yeah, these free kicks, they attack the goal. Carroll's able to kick it out. And at least they all they gave up was a throw in now. Again, a lot of action right there in the goal box, Jim.
Initially a header, and then 3 or 4 Bridgewater Eagles there to try to get a rebound. And Carroll comes way out, Mike.
Tried to punch it out.
And left the goal unattended. And the Knights are fortunate the ball bounced the way it did. As Munoz takes it away, tries to get to it, splits a couple of defenders. No one there to pass in towards the middle, though. Munoz will fire, and it'll be off to the right and miss.
Again, these counterattacks, that's where the Knights are really going to have to start to excel until their offense gets going again.
Another corner kick, it looks like, with Josh Smith again from the right side. Well, the Knights now have a shot on goal. Still trail here, 1-0. That pass across the middle, knocked away temporarily by Bridgewater. Right back to Smith, though.
Scramble for the ball, and again, the Eagles just get the ball out so they can set their defense.
Mentioned, Mike, that these men's and women's soccer team will be playing their capital opener coming up on Saturday, September the 26th, on the road at St. Mary's. Their next home game will be a doubleheader on September the 30th, 1 week from tonight. Women, I believe, hosting Barton, and the men hosting Greensboro in a doubleheader.
Yeah, and I believe that'll be their last non-conference game for the season.
And their first back-to-back doubleheader.
Yes.
Which they'll see a lot of in October. Capital play.
Capital play, it's all about double headers. Cuts down on travel expenses. And
we'll see double headers in soccer, double headers in basketball, double headers in, what else? Lacrosse, obviously.
And tennis. Tristan Longergran is in for the Knights now.
Knights hanging right in there, only trailing here 1-0 despite the lack of offense and only having, I believe, 1 shot on goal here so far in the first half. Here is Lonergan with it, moving up the left side. Pass escapes his teammate, goes right to the Eagles.
Must have been a little bit of an offsides call there. Trying to look for the... Oh, there's the linesman. Ramirez sends it deep down the field.
Francis in the corner. Knocked away.
Again, this is where the Knights have to start to execute a little bit better. And we see Court Cox come in to take this throw in, and Court could almost throw it in the goal from here.
And he fires it that way.
Oh, just off the foot of Lonergan to the right-hand side. And that's a game of inches here on your foot, or even millimeters is what they tell me. If it has to strike the foot just right for it to get to go where you want. If you miss, it's going to go off to the side and not be on the target that you would like to have.
And I don't know if that's so much about a talent, or is that more about just the luck of the draw, basically.
Well, when you're getting pushed around, you really have to be strong enough to try to maintain that striking composure. So it's a little bit of both. I'd say, we'll give them majority of talent, but always have to have that look to be in the right spot at the right time.
There's Carlos Munoz with it. Steal by Bridgewater.
Here comes the counterattack.
Pass upfield.
Nice job by Ramirez to get back.
Making the play. Oh, Carroll came out.
And there's, again, a little bit of lackadaisical efforts by the Knights. Ramirez just kind of halfway kicked it back towards Carroll. Didn't know that the Eagles were right there behind him, and that could have been
Lewis,
very
a
dangerous.
midfielder coming out of nowhere. Almost took that.
You can never take anything for granted when you're out there on the field. It's always got to be, you always have to be on 100% of the time. Well, the Knights are doing a good job of manufacturing corner kicks, but nothing coming from them.
And, of course, Bridgewater's only goal of the game so far has come off the corner kick. But the Knights have done a much better job in the last 10 minutes or so, really stymieing their Bridgewater offense. They have 4 shots on goal. I believe the Knights still just have the 1.
And looks like the Eagles were really trying to set up for any type of counterattack and get those long passes in the seams down the field.
Ramirez stole it momentarily, fell to the turf, or make that Lonergan. Kicks it back to Carroll.
Carroll with the long clear down the field. And just like in basketball, you can tell a good soccer team when you see them in transition, whether it's offensive or defensive transition, is if the whole team moves as one unit. And that's kind of what Bridgewater's doing right now, is just moving as one unit. The Knights need to create some type of havoc out there.
Francis had a shot at it, but lost it.
Nice switch of the field by the Eagles.
Pushed from behind by Hogan.
Looks like someone may be cramping up. It looks like it might be Hogan. Look at the stoppage here.
Looks like he may have to come off, Mike.
Yeah, he's going to try to stay out there. But you can see every time he takes a step that cramp just comes back, and you can almost see the bulge in the back on the calf.
I'd rather not see that. For anybody who has had those and felt the pain.
Yeah, they don't feel good, but I'm very surprised that he's cramping up now. I mean, it's not extremely hot outside. I know they stay hydrated because the training staff.
Plus, he just pulled in the wrong direction and
yeah,
extended.
Could be. Hopefully, he can get through this cramp extremely fast. On the professional side, they would bring out a sponge and wipe it across them, and all of a sudden, magically, everything would be great. Chad Mahaffey's getting him off the field, walking very gingerly, because if you move the wrong way, that cramp comes right back.
And quite often, as you mentioned, not just a matter of coming back right away, but maybe later in the contest.
Yeah, he's going to go over and get some treatment and get some fluids into him, and we may see Hogan back, or it's going to depend on how he can move without increasing those chances of the cramps coming back. So Daniel Nelson comes in for Noah Hogan now. And again, even though the Eagles are this far away from the goal, about 50 yards away, look for them to try to attack over the top.
And they drive it down towards the middle.
Ball's in the middle of the field, almost in the goal box.
Ramirez had the initial block. Bridgewater still trying to control it, though.
And it looks like a corner kick now for the Eagles. Dangerous situation for the Knights.
Yeah, in a game like this where they're struggling with offense, Mike, they can ill afford to fall 2 goals behind.
Yeah, it's going to be paramount for them to get the ball out, clear it cleanly, and get the ball down the field.
Corner kick. Header towards the goal, knocked away with one hand by the goalkeeper, Carroll.
And they're going to call a foul there on Bridgewater's. One of the Eagles took Keenan Carroll out.
So much like the recent games against Roanoke and Washington Lee, the defense has been very, very good today. It's just, again, the offense that has struggled. They scored 1 goal against WNL, 1 goal against Roanoke. In each case, only gave up 3.
Yeah, you would hope that if you limit your opponents to 1 goal, that you're going to be right there with them, and your offense can generate 1 or 2 goals in the first half.
And that, of course, may happen in the second half for the Knights, if they can just somehow keep this a 1-goal game, Mike.
Yeah, you don't want to fall too far behind and start pressing, especially with the offense not clicking right now.
Court Cox tries to get it downfield. He's trying to hit Cade Lowe, who I believe was the person responsible for that only goal against Roanoke College, and that might go down not only as that might go down as maybe the best goal they've had all season.
Yeah, that was
throughout the entire season.
Yeah.
That was just like clockwork passing.
It was very precision and one of the most beautiful plays that we've seen on this field. Number 19, Morgan Palmer, now in for Nick Francis.
Lonigan battling down the right side for the ball.
And we'll have a corner kick now. Again, those long over-the-top passes just seem to be something that most of the opponents of the Knights try to do against them.
The Eagles setting up for another right side corner kick. Their only goal tonight came from the left side corner kick. This one towards the middle. Good play by the Knights, and it looks like maybe one of the Bridgewater players is injured.
Could have got his ankle twisted
Yeah,
up
it looked
underneath
like an
him.
ankle injury. Lowe falls, loses the ball.
Nice job by Smedley to take the ball away.
Gets it over to Lowe.
Oh, just
Goalkeeper came out, and Lowe shot off to the left.
you saw him try to get the ball up and over the top of the goalkeeper, just not able to angle it back. Fortunately, it went out of bounds off of one of the Bridgewater Eagles, and we see a corner kick now for the Knights. And the corner kick will be curving in towards the goal.
This might be their first corner kick all night long, I think, from the left side, isn't it?
I think so. Goalkeeper's warning the players, hey, no jostling right now. Get your position, hold it.
Towards the middle, just not deep enough. Bridgewater tries to come out of there with it. Ramirez mixed up in an altercation. Whistle blows against the Knights.
Yeah, just wasn't able to get enough of the ball cleanly on that slide tackle. Offsides on Bridgewater, and we haven't seen a lot of offsides against any of the opponents of the Knights, especially with those long passes, and that's just a great timing mechanism that the opponents have. It'd be nice to see maybe the Knights kind of trap them a little bit more and draw them into an offsides.
Knights trying to get a little opening here, but Bridgewater kicks it away.
Oh, there's got to be an offsides there. There was no doubt about that one. Looks like the Eagle was about 10 yards in front of any of the defense. Again, a lot of play in the middle third of the field right now for both teams.
And Morgan Palmer getting some good playing time tonight as a sub. Along with Sam Kelly.
Quick play now for the Eagles. Tries to chip it in.
Just too far.
Again, nice to see Keenan get back with the ball, making sure that it's not going to be anywhere close to the goal.
The only goal scored so far in the game by Bridgewater, 1-0 lead. Came on a left side corner kick that really the goalkeeper, Carroll, just had no chance on.
No, it was a well executed set play off the corner kick. And not a lot that Keenan could do. Not done anything about that one.
And Bridgewater's hoping to get one more before halftime arrives.
Yeah, and that would really be detrimental to the Knights because they're not mounting a lot of offense right now.
And you wonder the way Bridgewater's defense is really clogging things up towards the middle if the Knights are going to have to maybe talk this over at halftime, try to figure out a way to stymie, to get around that defensive effort by the Eagles. Otherwise, it's really tough to see how the Knights are going to be able to break free, as the Eagles had a good look at it momentarily, but good defense by the Knights to knock away that ball.
And here's the corner kick off the same side where the Eagles scored from, and it's just a throw in. Ooh. Well, the Knights may have to start talking about, hey, we need to attack like everybody is attacking us, in some long counterattacks over the top passing to try to loosen up this Bridgewater Eagle defense.
Haven't seen the Knights do a whole lot of that this season, the over-the-top passing.
Yeah, I believe that Coach Patino really wants a ball control offense. Right now it's just not clicking, not saying that it won't work for him, but right now it's not clicking, and he may have to, again, make some halftime adjustments. But he is the soccer coach, and so we'll defer to him.
Sam Kelly had it, lost it. Now Bridgewater's got it back. Good pass.
Offside.
Offside is the call, though.
And
had the right idea, but
there was no doubt about that. That was number 10, Ben Lewis, that was really way far ahead of the defenders before the pass was released.
Coming up on the 2-minute mark as the Eagles lead here 1-0.
Lonergan back with the ball. Looks like they're going to call offsides on Bridgewater. And I really didn't see that. I don't know where that came from, as Tristan was back and almost alone.
Yeah, we had an Eagles player charge after him. But again, the call was offsides as the Eagles try to control the ball, but now it is Munoz with it towards the middle. Kicked around, and the Eagles are able to clear.
You know, that's nice awareness of the clock, too, to get the ball out as quickly as possible, as far away. Unfortunately, now the Eagles have it on a counterattack.
Wanigan mixed up with an Eagle. Whistle blows against the Knights.
And we'll see if the Eagles attack. Munoz was right there to block. Very fortunate for the Knights because Carlos wasn't 10 yards away at all.
Knights trying to clear here.
Throw in for Bridgewater. 30 seconds left.
Well, able to get a foot on it.
See if
Knights with a throw in.
See if they can get a counterattack going this last 15 seconds.
Man, it looks like we're going to go to halftime in a 1-0 ball game.
Yeah, Keenan Carroll just be good enough just to hold the ball right now.
And so we are at halftime, and the Eagles go into halftime with a 1-0 lead, Mike. They were able to score earlier in this first half of a corner kick. Good goal by the Eagles. Knights not able to get too many shots on goal, and as a result, not able to get any goals in that first half, but still only down 1 as we hit halftime.
Yeah, good defense to keep the Eagles out, just letting them score on a corner kick. Unfortunately, though, the Knights offense really hasn't mounted a lot of great attacks.
Each team, it looks like, has the same number of shots, but again, just 2 shots on goal in that first half for the Knights.
Yeah, and the corner kicks are about even. 4 for Bridgewater, 5 for the Knights. The difference is the Eagles are able to attack much better on their corner kicks by getting the goal in. The Knights have had a lot of opportunities with the corners, just nothing coming up.
So again, we are at halftime here at the Fields at Southern Virginia University with your halftime score. Bridgewater 1 and the Knights 0. And we'll take a little break here and come back for second half action in just a few minutes. And welcome back to the fields at Southern Virginia University. Sun starting to set, Mike. Jim Bresnahan along with Mike Harmon here. And Mike, as the sun sets, second half ready to start here with Bridgewater leading Southern Virginia in men's soccer 1-0.
And the Knights are right in this game. Defensively, we were able to keep the Eagles at bay except for a great corner kick play by the Eagles, but not being able to mount any type of offense.
And we'll see what, if anything, the Knights do different offensively here in the second half to try to really, get their offense going. And, of course, until that happens, if it happens, Mike, the one thing they don't want to do is give up a second goal to Bridgewater.
Well, it looks like they pulled Carlos Munoz back into the midfield with Gabe Ramirez, trying to make sure that they get some type of great play build up.
And we'll see if they continue with that ball control type of offensive approach or take some shots downfield with some passes over the top.
Well, we do know that the Eagles will try to take a few shots.
The Eagles just have the one goal, came on a corner kick.
Keenan Carroll able to come out and take that ball.
First half stats, again officially shots by period, 8 for Bridgewater in that first half, 8 for Southern Virginia. Corner kicks, Southern Virginia actually with 5 to 4 for Bridgewater. 2 shots on goal for the Knights in that first half, 4 shots on goal for Bridgewater. As Josh Smith goes through a couple of defenders.
And a corner kick for the Knights within the first minute and a half of the second half.
And from the left side, because a lot of those corner kicks, I think 4 of the 5 in the first half were from the right side.
And they just naturally curve away from the goal. Oh, Josh just
Misfit that one.
Yeah, just brought it in too much, trying to go for the near goal post. Don't see the Eagles trying to rush too much here.
Yeah, they go at a slower pace, much slower pace than it looks like Roanoke and W&L did.
Again, they rely on it looks like they rely on their defense a lot.
Going to be interesting to see how the ODAC shapes up this year. We've seen, again, a lot of ODAC teams here in September. And who would you think right now might be the top 2 teams in the ODAC, top 2 or 3?
Well, so far from the teams that we saw, it looks like Washington and Lee has the firepower more than anybody else. We haven't seen Hampden-Sydney, who's supposed to be one of the top teams.
Right.
Also, we know that Roanoke and Bridgewater were picked to be in the top tier of the ODAC. So right now, it would appear that Washington and Lee has the upper hand just on preseason.
Although Washington Lee barely beat this Bridgewater team. And again, against the Knights a couple of weeks ago, those 2 teams were tied at 1 with about 10 minutes to go.
But they've had a greater attack out of anybody we've seen, and just a lot of shots on goals, a lot of pressure on defenses.
Then you start to wonder about how maybe the top teams of the ODAC might shape up against, let's say, in men's action, Christopher Newport and Salisbury.
Well, we know that this Bridgewater team beat Salisbury just last week. So, again, it was a defensive struggle. It was a 2-1 game. So, obviously, that Bridgewater is able to really stymie some people. Now, Christopher Newport, on the other hand, again, we talked about different levels earlier on in another broadcast, and Christopher Newport may be on a different level than some of the soccer teams that will be in the Capital Athletic Conference or in the ODAC.
Yeah, the Knights will see CNU in a few weeks. That'll come up obviously in October.
Yeah, and it could be that the Knights could have a great chance against CNU. Again, you don't know what type of injuries.
Nice defensive play by the Knights after Carroll came out to make sure that ball doesn't go in.
As Court Cox comes sliding in to get the ball way out of bounds. They may not find that ball.
That one's back in the woods.
And that's a steep drop off. They'll have someone rappel down there to get
They might find a few softballs. No, not over there, I guess.
They may find a few soccer balls down there. Corner kick for the Eagles. Oh,
Oh, that one off the bar, looked
so
like, Mike.
fortunate.
And they
And
get the
goes in.
rebound to go in. Dangerous moments. That one was in front of the Southern Virginia goal for it seemed like 4 or 5 seconds. And after a couple of opportunities, Bridgewater is able to get it to go in and take a 2-goal lead. That was a huge goal for the Eagles.
Yeah, now they can really get back into their shell on defense. Just another unfortunate turn of events, and we saw it happen in the women's game, not being able to clear the ball, and the Knights hadn't been able to clear the ball twice on these corner kicks.
And that was a situation in front of the goal, Mike, where, again, Bridgewater had several opportunities, at least 2, before the ball actually went into the goal. So both of Bridgewater's goals coming directly in front of the goalkeeper, Carroll. And now if you're Bridgewater, do you settle back and try to just hold on to this 2-goal lead, or do you go back on the attack
Well,
and try to go for goal number 3?
And we've seen their attack isn't really something that's going to put them at risk.
Corner kicks have been their strength.
Quick start for the Knights. Again, that Eagle defense is just suffocating.
Yeah, they're sagging in and just making it very difficult for the Knights to get any penetration.
And they play the passing lanes so well. Looks like we'll have a throw in now.
Well, don't forget tomorrow night, 7 o'clock, Randolph, Southern Virginia, women's volleyball action. Mike and Art will have that one for you. First volleyball webcast of the season as Bridgewater tries to go over the top again, Mike. A couple of defenders back there along with the goalkeeper to stop that attempt.
And again, that's just looks like it's going to be Bridgewater's MO. We're going to try to counterattack. We'll go over the top a couple times. If it's there, it's there. If not, we're just going to make sure that we keep our defense intact.
Start wondering about how many capital teams might go with that approach.
Well, we'll find out soon enough.
Well, the men's and women's team will find out on Saturday at St. Mary's, on the road, though.
Well, with the offensive woes that the Knights are having now, a 1-goal lead is just extravagant to some of these teams. I think they would probably feel if we can get up on the Knights early, we'll have a great chance of winning that game.
Knights, again, just have 4 goals on the season in 4 of those games, 4 of the 7 games they've played. 3 games they've been shut out. The women were kind of like in the same boat until yesterday, Mike.
Yeah, yesterday was just an offensive explosion for the first half. 4 goals in one half, and then in the second half, not able to really mount a lot of attacks.
And the men's team is still looking for that first game with multiple goals.
Well, and that's where the Knights need to really start to pick things up is offensive consistency. What are they trying to achieve, and can they execute what they want to achieve?
So again, don't forget, we've got volleyball action tomorrow night, 7 o'clock. Mike and Art will have that Randolph Southern Virginia matchup. And then everybody is on the road this weekend, Mike. Friday and Saturday, women's volleyball on the road. Saturday, football playing at Salisbury. And as we mentioned, both the men and women's soccer team on Saturday playing on the road at St. Mary's.
Yeah, the soccer and football conference games. It'll be the last time that volleyball has an out-of-conference game.
Josh Smith with it in the middle of the field. 2
Trying
or 3 defenders on him, though. Nowhere to go.
Yeah, he was trying to get that ball back to his right foot so he could send a shot in.
Flynn with it, upfield. Josh is tripped.
See how the Knights want to play this. We know that Bridgewater likes to attack anywhere from
40 yards
midfield.
out, and
Yeah.
Bridgewater would take a booming shot towards the goal.
Free kicks, they're going to attack the goal. Let's see how the Knights play this. You have Josh and Carlos there.
Looks like Carlos will take it.
Yeah, Josh will peel off a little bit. Will they play a short kick, or are they going to try to go in for the... Header. Oh,
And Ramirez tried to go with the header, but
he was
went
there.
the wrong direction.
Yeah, just momentum taking him one way and trying to come back the other way, just not able to really get a good direction on the ball.
And we've talked about that. It's very tough to anticipate where the ball is going to be. You've got to be exactly where you want to be at the exact moment and have the right direction, Mike. If you can do all that, you might have the goalkeeper at your mercy.
Headed out by the Eagles, as we had Morgan Palmer checking in just a minute ago.
Now whistle against the Knights. Collision sent an Eagle down to the ground.
I don't believe they'll attack the goal from this far away. But nothing would surprise us, right?
95 yards might be a little bit much, huh?
Nice job by Munoz to take the ball away. And there again, we've seen this time after time after time. Anytime there's any type of pressure on the Eagles, they just get the ball out for a throw-in, but then they get their defense back and get it set. And the Knights just haven't found the right combination to try to crack this defense.
And the Knights are in a little bit of a drought here. Trying to think. Obviously, they had a 1-0 lead against Roanoke at halftime, but they didn't score in the second half, did not score in the first half of this game. So we're talking at least 100 minutes of play without a goal.
And
against quality competition, obviously, in Roanoke College and Bridgewater.
Very good competition.
Since taking the shot we mentioned, Mike, Cade Lowe's goal, exquisite goal by the Knights in the first half of that Roanoke College game, they have not scored, I believe, since that goal.
No, they haven't. And just a hard time now for the offense to get on track.
When sending it downfield. And then it's Christian Rice running into an Eagle who goes down hard.
Yellow card for Christian.
Injured Eagle was, I believe, Ethan McBride, a senior forward, and he's able to get up under his own power. I've had a few yellow cards. I think Ramirez picked one up in the first half.
Oh, me, just, again, from across the midline.
Long passes.
Attack. Long attack off a header, then back to the middle. Have an injured Eagle down.
That might be McBride again.
Looks like it.
Don't know if that's a new one or the carryover.
We hope he's all right. We never want to see anybody down on the turf for too long. Trying to check out the number. Looks like it might be number 18 or 10. 18?
Yeah, I think it is McBride again.
Yep.
He was the one who got bumped by Christian Rice on the yellow card just a few seconds ago.
Well, again, we see those long attacks over the top, especially from Bridgewater on free kicks, doing some not damage as far as putting the ball into the net, but really putting a lot of pressure on the Knights' defense.
Hard to say, Mike, what the injury might be.
Yeah, there's checking out his left side. I don't know if it's an ankle or knee or what it may be, and we're not going to really try to guess too much. Trainers are going to be getting him up now, which is nice to see him in a sitting position. The trainer from Southern Virginia, Chad Mahaffey, out with him, and don't know if that's a coach from Bridgewater, if it's a trainer also.
And I'm trying to see out there too the Southern Virginia player who had the cramp problem in the first half. That was Hogan, I believe. And be curious to see if he's out there, or if not, if he'll make a second half appearance.
They're getting McBride off, and he's gingerly going off, holding that leg up. And so we're going to make an assumption, which is always bad, but knee or ankle. Hopefully it's he just turned it just a little bit, trying to get back to
and it does look like it occurred right around the goal, and it wasn't a carryover from the collision with Rice.
And looked like he was trying to change directions pretty quickly to get to the ball as it was coming across the face of the goal.
So Aaron McElhaney will be coming at a freshman midfielder to replace McBride. And the Knights might have a couple of shots on goal in the first half. I don't believe any shots on goal so far here in the second half. And no real golden opportunities scoring-wise for the Knights throughout the entire contest so far.
Yeah, nothing of significance, and that has to be concerning the coaching staff from Southern Virginia.
They battled pretty much on defense. Only allowed a couple of goals, both on corner kicks, off corner kicks. Not sure the defense is of much of a concern for the coaching staff, but just that offense.
Yeah, anytime you can limit teams to 1 or 2 goals a game, you would hope that your offense would come around. The Knights are scoring less than a goal a game, and that's just not going to win you a lot of soccer
Just 4
games.
goals on the season. I'm trying to remember who scored those goals. We mentioned Lowe, of course, against Roanoke, and I do remember Gabe Ramirez has a goal.
Drouet has one.
And, of course, so the Knights had that 1-0 win on the road at Ferrum. Their only victory so far. They've yet to win a home game. Of course, much of the tough competition has come here at home. The last 3 opponents, Roanoke, Washington Lee, and Widener.
Greg Allen also has one. So we have Ramirez, Lowe.
Allen might have had the one in the Ferrum game, I think. The 1-0 winner.
And Drouet. Long over the top pass. Kind of catches the Knights a little bit again.
Cox back there with a couple of help. But now we've got 4 or 5 Bridgewater players back there. Nice save by Carroll. 7 shots on goal now for the Eagles.
Knights quickly try to counterattack, and I think this is where they're going to have to really start to try to excel, is in their counterattacks.
Nice pass by Ramirez.
But there's that Eagles defense again, just suffocating. Offsides.
That's offside, yep.
See a coach from Bridgewater over there with his arms up. Like, what do you mean? But way offsides, about at least 10 yards.
But you can see Bridgewater, they just love to go over the top and try to catch the Knights napping.
Well, that's kind of been the MO of all the opponents of the Knights. And it's great that the technology is now that every team can be seen live, and you don't have to worry about someone sending you a video. The downside is to it, every team can see you and pick out your weaknesses a whole lot easier.
Not only that, they could probably tape and rewatch over and over again. Ramirez with it, trying to hang on to it. Nice move.
Ball went out of bounds. I have a throw in for the Eagles now. The Knights just can't seem to crack that Eagles defense. Once they get to about 15 yards away. There's nothing that the Knights have done to get any further penetration.
Another over-the-top attempt by the Eagles. And it looks like that was Cox, I think, breaking that up. Well, one thing's for sure, beautiful night here, Mike, at the fields of Southern Virginia University for this game today. Good weather.
Yeah, couldn't ask for better weather. Not too hot, no rain, no snow or sleet that we saw in some of the spring sports.
Court Cox tries to stop the attack.
Able to play it off the Bridgewater Eagle.
Yeah, we have not seen a lot of rain this fall or late summer.
Must be saving it all for springtime. Poor spring sports.
Or perhaps saving it in the form of snow for the wintertime.
Let's not even go there, Jim. We don't want
According to the
snow.
almanacs, which we talked about a few weeks ago.
Yes. It's supposed to be a hard winter here.
I was still trying to recover from that last home basketball game, which I did not make because of, I don't know, what was that, like 10 inches of snow. Here's a nice pass downfield. Bridgewater sets up on the right side for a shot. Oh, nice save by Carroll.
And cleared out by Rice. The Knights need to get back and organize on defense much quicker.
But Bridgewater keeps attacking. Towards the middle with a header and knocked away momentarily by the Knights.
It seems like now the Eagles have found something that they like and where they need to attack, and they've kept the ball down on this end of the field a lot longer than we've seen them normally do.
Nice play momentarily by, I believe, Rice to knock the ball away. Does again.
See the Eagles switch the field now. Like we have an offsides. And those over-the-top passes have really been an issue for the Knights, and now we're starting to see some of those seam passes become an issue again, as it was an issue earlier on in the season for the Knights.
Right now, Mike, the Knights are just struggling to control the ball, let alone really get something going on the offensive end.
Well, the Eagles are playing very relaxed. They know they got a 2-goal lead. Probably feel really comfortable playing with a 1-goal lead, and as we've seen in a lot of their games, as they can limit a lot of opportunities for the opposing team.
Bridgewater had come in with, I believe, just 4 goals themselves on the season and just the 1 victory. But then again, they had played a pretty good schedule.
Yeah, they've
only lost to W&L on Saturday, I think it was, 2-1.
2-1, and that's the most goals they've given up a game is 2 goals in games. So they're very, very used to playing in these close games.
These low-scoring games.
Yeah. Very low-scoring games, and their defense is what keeps them in it. I mean, when you can play Salisbury, who was ranked 12th in the nation at that time, and beat them 1-0, that's just something that's kind of unusual.
And it makes you wonder if Salisbury down the road can compete with maybe CNU. We talked about that. You mentioned that it looked like a CNU might be the top team in the Capital, at least early on in the non-conference. And you mentioned Salisbury might have something to say about that. It may depend, of course, where Salisbury plays CNU in October.
And we don't know if Salisbury had any injuries at that point to major players. Were they at full strength? We do know it was
hard to get a read on some of these non-conference
very
matchups.
much so, and that happened at St. Mary's College Classic. So is Salisbury doing some gamesmanship and not wanting to show St. Mary's anything, and by holding some players out? So you never know. You'll start to tell a lot about teams during the conference part of the season.
Although you get the feeling with St. Mary's coming up for the Knights on the road, the Capital opener on Saturday and the doubleheader, how often do these coaches go into these first conference games kind of flying blind a little bit?
Well, they
as to what to expect.
They like to think they know what to expect, but again, some teams will do what we call sandbagging and just not play all their players at full strength, especially if it's at a school that you're going to be going back to play against. Oh, nice play by Josh Smith.
His back was able to get that ball to a teammate momentarily, but Rice loses it as Bridgewater takes it away.
Very athletic play. Oh, and they're onside. This is bad news.
Push from behind.
And taken down. I think we're going to have a yellow card there.
Palmer made the play from behind.
Yep, yellow card on Palmer.
Don't think it happened.
Oh, wait a minute.
Box.
That's a red card.
Yep, red card it is.
Oh, so the Knights will be playing man down for the rest of the game.
First red card, I think, of the season.
And freshman Palmer just made a very bad mistake.
Trying to stop, obviously, a breakaway, Mike, but there's ways to stop the breakaway. And at that point, maybe you just let your goalkeeper do his best.
So now the Knights in a very difficult position, not only playing a very stubborn and tenacious defensive team in Bridgewater, but playing a man down. And I don't know how much you practice this in practice, playing a man down. I don't think you'd practice it very much.
Bridgewater will take a shot blocked by the Knights.
Offsides on the Eagles.
Offsides is going to be the call, yep.
And this may, who knows, play into the hands of the Knights as the Bridgewater Eagles may become more aggressive, and that's not their nature. Maybe lull them into a false sense of security and open up some of their defense to some counterattacks.
Although I would imagine once we get inside of maybe 10 or 15 minutes, Bridgewater might really put the clamps on defensively and kind of figure at that point they've got enough goals on the board to win this ball game.
Yeah, they may only attack with 3 or 4 people and keep everybody else back for defensive purposes.
Drew Bay up the right side.
We'll have a corner kick now for the Knights.
Knights have had plenty of opportunities from the corner kick. Unfortunately, a lot of them have come from the right side.
Yeah, and when one of your major targets is out, we talked about Brahima Mulabah, who is a tall and very solidly built young man who could be a major target for these corner kicks. You just have to roll with the punches and come up with something new.
The goalkeeper is able to jump in there and grab it. Nice play by Mark Davis, the 6'1" junior goalkeeper.
And it pays to have a tall goalkeeper as they can come out, get their hands up above anybody else. And onsides again. This is a
nice move. Shot. Easy goal for Noah Malpass, freshman forward for Bridgewater. Their third goal of the game.
Again, playing a man down is just, this is the problem with getting that red card. And Palmer will learn from this as Coach Patino will talk to him and say, listen, you can't put our team in jeopardy like this, especially when we're only down by 2. You never know what can happen. Go down by 3, and it's not impossible but improbable that the Knights can score 3 goals in this short a period of time.
So now the Eagles have a 3-goal lead with just a little under 22 minutes to go. And the Knights could be looking at their 3rd straight half without a goal. Flynn was battling for it.
Looks like we'll have a foul on the Eagles. Nice job by Colin to get back and stop that.
And Bridgewater just keeps on attacking here, Mike, with this 3-goal lead.
Well, now, again, it's time that they can practice on some things also and try to figure out some stuff as they're getting ready to go into their conference opener.
Kind of an offensive explosion tonight for the Eagles. They had struggled all season long trying to score goals.
Yeah, the most goals they scored in a game has been 2. Now that we see them open up a 3-goal lead. Nice job by Ramirez in the middle of the field, and this is where he needs to make things happen for the Knights.
And I believe the Knights have no shots on goal, Mike, here in the second half. Only had 2 shots on goal in the first half. And they just really have never had a good look at the goal. Lots of corner kicks.
And you have to give all the credit to the Bridgewater Eagles. Their defense is just one of those defenses that
yes, they've
is
had a
brick
good game
wall.
plan tonight.
Yes, they brought in a great game plan tonight. And if we want to compare it to another sport, it looks like in basketball they have what's called a pack defense, where they keep everything at a certain distance away from the goal. And if you watch UVA play, Tony Bennett is a great proponent of that. And
right.
they'll keep the ball out so many feet away from the goal. And it looks like Bridgewater has kind of adopted that style for their soccer team.
And if you want to keep on the basketball the comparison, it sounds like Bridgewater, at least we've seen tonight, can go on the fast break too.
Oh, yes. Counterattacks are always
and over the
like
top passing. Ramirez doing a good job trying to control it. Get away from a couple of defenders. Kicks it off to Flynn. Now Sam Kelly. I don't know that we've seen Hogan here in the second half. Had the cramps in the first half, of course.
And about the only way you can get rid of cramps is by having an intravenous fluid put in, and we don't have that capability right now, so it might just be the best thing that he stays out, because once you get a cramp, it's ready to come back at any moment.
Well, one of the keys for the Knights going forward into conference play in October, I guess, trying to keep everybody healthy, obviously, and trying to get Mulaba back as quickly as possible.
Well,
and that's just, as you mentioned earlier in the first half, hard to get a read when that's going to happen.
Yeah, and they've got to find some kind of consistency on offense. Looks like Court Cox is down now. And he may have been just landed on, saw as he was going up trying to clear the ball out. He got tangled up with another player.
He's getting up now with under his own power.
On a yellow card, and for both of them, for the Bridgewater and for Court Cox.
And Josh Smith didn't like that call, and I don't think Court does either.
Court doesn't. They need to get away from the referee now. They don't need to go another man down.
Josh Smith really did not like that call. Still doesn't.
And I don't know how he could call it on Court also, unless he felt that Court pulled the Eagle down on top of him.
The referee tried to explain it to Josh Smith.
Well, I have Josh and Carlos and Court in a class tomorrow on coaching, so we'll probably discuss this and find out what was going on.
The call or how Josh handled it?
Well, both. I think Josh handled it pretty well. There, he kind of got Court away from the referee, and then was walking back to him and just let his point be known, and then listen to the referee and no other shenanigans. And
in this class, do you teach how to handle situations like that?
Well, that's one of the things that we go through.
Does Bobby Knight come up?
We have talked about Bobby Knight just briefly on different kinds of coaches and
ways not to do it, ways to do it,
well,
that sort of thing.
We determined that he's a dictator type coach, and those
Which,
type of
at times, or at least that was the prevailing theory.
That was the prevailing theory at that point.
That you could influence referees that way.
Yeah, and intimidate your own team that way. So, yeah, we've come and talked about him a little
But
bit.
then again, that was a different generation. That was the 70s, and I guess into a certain degree to the 80s.
And we've talked about how those type of coaches have become less and less prevalent. But no, they do a good job in class, and all the kids that
I'm
are in
not
there.
sure there's too many coaches you can say he's like Bobby Knight.
Yeah, there's maybe earlier Hank Iba and Joe B. Hall and some of the
And then you have the laid back coaches like John Wooden.
well, I know for a fact in some of his practices he wasn't so laid back.
Yeah, right. It was the public image, I suppose.
The public image of him. But they all do a very good job in the classroom, especially bringing up some nice points and keeping the conversation going.
17 minutes left. Bridgewater on top here, 3-0. Eagles only had a 1-0 lead at halftime, but have scored twice here in the second half.
And the Knights are down a man because of a red card on freshman Morgan Palmer. Now we're starting to see the Eagles
Spread
play
the
a
field
lot
a
of ball control.
Yep. Trying to run a little clock maybe. At the same time, maybe try to lull Southern Virginia to a little false sense of security and sneak a fourth goal in.
Yeah, they switched the field about 2 or 3 times there and then looked to attack. Carlos tries to play the ball through to number 23, Cade Lowe, trying to find some type of connection that they can at least get on the board.
When you look ahead to Capital play, and again, they still have one more non-conference game coming up on the 30th, next Wednesday against Greensboro, but when you look ahead to Capital play, it looks like the defense, I think, is ready, and I think they've got a pretty good goalkeeper in Keenan Carroll. I think he's ready for Capital play, but not sure the offense is ready right now.
Well, the offense is really lagging behind. Offsides on Bridgewater. Nice little trap.
Can't exactly
trap.
recall when they scored in that Roanoke game, how early. I think it was relatively early.
It was early in the first half.
You know, we could be talking about maybe 120 minutes without a goal here now for the Knights. I think they scored in that Roanoke game maybe like in the first 7 minutes. So you might be talking 140, 150 minutes without a goal here since they scored in the first half against Roanoke.
Yeah, they scored at the 11-minute mark, or 11 minutes into the game.
Of course, the Knights actually began the season with a couple of shutouts against Virginia Wesleyan and Hampden-Sydney. And they have seen a lot of ODAC teams this season so far.
Yeah, just unfortunately that the offense just hasn't rounded into shape and the vision that Coach Patino has for them.
Even their one victory this season against Ferrum was a 1-0 victory. Well, Mike, you got any thoughts about what you expect tomorrow night, women's volleyball, as the Knights will be hosting Randolph from the Knight Sports Arena Thursday night, 7 o'clock, and of course you'll be able to see that webcast.
Well, Randolph hasn't traditionally been a powerhouse in the ODAC shot on goal, but the Knights are down and lost a lot of players and a coach from last year, which was really ranked second in the Capital Athletic Conference.
And volleyball's had some wins this season so far here in the first month of the season. They played a lot of matches.
They have, and again, trying to bring.
And probably put a few miles on the bus too. I remember that trip a couple of weeks ago to Transylvania, Kentucky.
Yeah, that's a long trip.
Yeah,
long trip.
And they got road games coming up, I believe, Friday and Saturday. You mentioned
Friday and Saturday they're away. Also, last non-conference games for them, and then they'll be into the conference, and it doesn't get easy. We have Salisbury, you have CNU, who is regularly ranked in the top 15.
How's the records shaping up for Capital play when it comes to volleyball action?
We'll check that out for us as we go along.
Another collision on the field. Knights, of course, had a great season last year in women's volleyball action.
They did. And you got Christian Newport at 12-1, Mary Washington 11-3, Marymount at 10-4, Wesley at 8-4, Salisbury 9-6, St. Mary's 6-4, Frostburg 8-6, Penn State Harrisburg 5-6, York at 5-10, and then Southern Virginia coming in at 3-9.
So all but 3 teams with winning records in non-conference play. And of course, last season the Knights were near the top.
Yeah, they
made the Capital Tournament, which could still obviously happen, but reduced numbers this year, especially with that injury.
Yeah, seeded second last year, was able to host a CAC tournament game, the first team to do that. So they were able to do a lot of firsts for the Knights last year. Unfortunately, one of the biggest losses the Knights have was Coach Brittany Lee, who is out in Utah at University of Utah State, or Utah State University Eastern Junior College. Pollock is with her out there for a year now, and just going to be a different team this year.
Well, we're closing in on the 10-minute mark here, and the Knights again trail by 3 goals.
You see the Knights really trying to scramble and cover, but with one man down, it's going to be a long road for them.
And it's hard to really say whether the Eagles are just playing keep away right now and trying to run clock, or if they still have an eye towards maybe taking one more shot at the goal.
Well, I'm sure if the opportunity presents itself, they'll go over the top again. But with a 3-goal lead and the way their defense is playing, I don't see any real reason for them to put themselves at any type of risk.
Gabe Ramirez with it momentarily. He's got one of the 4 goals this season for the Knights.
And you got the counterattack coming.
Yeah, one guy who's very capable of producing the offense, Mike, is Munoz, and I don't think he's got a goal this year yet, and waiting for him to get on track.
And Josh Smith was a goal scorer.
That's right, and Josh is another
for him last year, and he has one this year, but not the numbers that Coach Patino was looking for in his second year.
Francis pushed from behind. Or to Allen was pushed from behind.
Again, the Knights trying to start quickly, and they're going to have to do some major work right now if they want to get back into this game in the last 10 minutes.
Now, right now, I'm thinking just Coach Patino wants to get on the board, maybe get a little momentum that way for the St. Mary's road trip on Saturday.
Yeah, that would be a monumental thing for them right now, is to get on the board. Like you said, haven't been able to score in the last game and a half plus.
And how do you manufacture the offense a man down?
Yeah, that's where it becomes even more of a task put in front of them, being a man down, because now the Eagles can just really lay back. And we see the Knights really trying to scramble as the Bridgewater Eagles play a little bit of keep away.
Although they were taking a shot upfield, it looked like, but the Knights were able to knock away that pass a few seconds ago.
Well, it's hard to tell players that really want to be out there on the field, hey, we're going to switch gears really fast. Don't try to score, even if the opportunity presents itself.
You don't see that in every sport, though. In basketball, you get second and third teamers out there, and more often than not, they'll take a shot at the basket. You'll see that in football, obviously, but and obviously we've seen that in past games in last spring in lacrosse. Certain sports, they just don't do that, though.
Again, being a man down, this is just a monumental task for the Knights trying to keep up, especially with the way that Bridgewater has been able to pass the ball during the whole game, especially. But now with being a man down, the Knights just are running around trying to catch the ball.
Ramirez almost able to steal it away, but Bridgewater really has the effort going now to just play keep away from the Knights.
And there's going to be some tired Knights after this game.
Sam Horman is also out there. Mentioned Hogan in the first half, had cramps. I don't think we've seen him at all in the second half.
Looks like Josh Smith was able to take the ball down the far side a little bit.
Daniel Nelson's going to check in. Sophomore.
Looks like he might be coming in for Josh Smith.
Throwing from the right side. Headed away by Bridgewater, though. And the Eagles are back to playing a little keep away as they bring it upfield.
Yeah, you see them break off their attack there. So they're going to be just content with, hey, let's run a few minutes off the clock.
Allen gets the takeaway.
And now time's really a factor against the Knights as they try to just manufacture that first goal.
Flynn boots it upfield.
Just again, when you're playing the man down, it's just becomes so hard.
Especially with all the running around trying to chase the ball as Bridgewater's controlling it.
Yeah, and the way that Bridgewater passes the ball, they spread the field really well. They're able to put the ball right on the receiver's foot. It just becomes a very tough task to try to catch up to the ball.
And it looks like the junior goalkeeper, Davis, I believe he's still out there as the goalkeeper, might get a shutout tonight and not really face any serious attempts by the Knights.
No, not too much. Which is something that, as a Knight fan, you don't want to see. You'd like to see that goalie on the opposing team be pressured often.
Well, by our count, as they want, maybe we'll take one more shot at it. Nope. Nice defense by the Knights to keep that ball away. Knights still just have 2 shots on goal, according to the stats, and that's what they had at halftime.
Yeah, they haven't really manufactured anything going towards the goal to put any pressure on the defense of the Eagles.
Knight player down was Flynn, but he gets up with some assistance.
And I don't know, he did take a very hard spill there, but he has to be tired too. He hasn't come out the whole game, and now being a man down, they're chasing the ball all over the place. He and Court Cox in the back, I know they haven't come out. Ramirez hasn't come out at all. Allen,
I don't think there's any question, Mike, of all the sports, when it comes to stamina, soccer's got to rank right up there as Bridgewater tries to get a shot, but the Knights are able to get back defensively and make a great defensive play to steal the ball. Hard to picture another sport that is so demanding from a stamina standpoint.
It's a brutal game if you're not prepared for it. As far as getting up and down the field, the starts, the stops, the sprinting that goes on. If you don't like running, soccer's not the game for you unless you're the goalie.
And the goalies will have to do their running, I guess, in just short little bursts.
Yeah, they do. You know, they don't want to do anything more than a 15-yard sprint.
Flynn with the defense, kick towards the goal. Oh, the Knights are able to knock it away at the last second.
Yeah, it looked like that may have gotten past Keenan Carroll.
Took a defender to knock that ball away, keep it away from the goal.
Again, looks like Colin Flynn hurting just a little bit.
Joseph Patino is going to come in, junior.
Long boot down the field. Have a foul called, and you're hoping that the Knights will find that offensive flow sometime this week in practice before they get on the bus to go to St. Mary's.
But they've only got a couple of days to work with when it comes to the practice.
Yeah, today and tomorrow or Friday, I don't know how much they're really going to practice. They may be leaving earlier to go up to St. Mary's. So really it comes down to what can they get accomplished tomorrow.
Yeah, then again, it's you just never know, I guess, Mike, how these teams will react to the trip itself.
Well, they've had some
trips in the capital a little easier than others,
and the trip to St. Mary's isn't that bad. It's just it's a long trip. Really, the only close trips we have are 3 hours away to Christopher Newport, Marymount, and Mary Washington. Everything else is a little bit longer. The good news is there's no real winding roads. It's all interstate.
Kick over or pass over the top, shot towards the goal, a little far and off to the right. Carroll came out. Nine shots on goal tonight for Bridgewater. Just 2 shots on goal, both of those coming in the first half for the Knights. And the Knights have done well defensively to limit Bridgewater to just those 3 goals.
Well, 2 of them came off of corner kicks.
Hard to fault Carroll at all on any of these shots that went in. Closing seconds of this one. Bridgewater's going to pick up its 2nd win of the season, Mike, and the Knights are now going to drop to 1-7 with their road trip coming up on Saturday at St. Mary's. So the men will go into St. Mary's first capital game with just 1 win of the season, and of course the women have a couple of wins.
Well, no, we've said all along that this is kind of the proving grounds. You want to learn from your non-conference season. Now the conference season starts, and hopefully this is where things really start to gel and be put together by the Knights.
And the women will have an interesting game at St. Mary's too. We saw them, of course, get the 4-3 win over Averett last night.
Yeah, again, it's all about how many people are going to be available for them, and how can they come together if they're not available. What pieces are going to be put into play?
Horn sounds here, Mike, from the fields at Southern Virginia University. Victory today for the Bridgewater Eagles. They knock off Southern Virginia 3-0. Mike, final thoughts on this one, and also final thoughts on the women and the men heading to St. Mary's for the Capital Opener coming up on Saturday.
The big thing for the Knights right now is where's the offense going to come from? Can they get anything going toward the goal and be consistently going toward the goal so they put enough pressure on the defense to watch the defenses crack? For the women, it's all about the injuries. Who's going to be back in time for the conference opener? Who's not going to be back in time? And which of the reserves are going to step up and play a major role and be a part of hopefully the Knights winning? And,
Mike, a reminder, you and Art will have women's volleyball tomorrow night, 7 o'clock, as Southern Virginia takes on Randolph. Should be interesting from the Knights Sports Arena on Thursday.
It'll be an interesting game to see how the Knights have recovered from losing Caitlin Talusik, their 3-year starter at setter. Also, their numbers are down, and we'll just have to see how they've been able to work around it. We'll be introducing a new coach, Nicole Gwynn, and see what her thoughts are on how the Knights are going to progress throughout the season.
So again, join Mike and Art for that tomorrow night, 7 o'clock, women's volleyball, as Southern Virginia will take on Randolph. That's going to wrap things up here from the fields at Southern Virginia University. Final score again tonight, Bridgewater 3 and Southern Virginia nothing in men's soccer action. For Mike Harmon and all the crew, I'm Jim Bresnahan. Thanks again for joining us tonight. Have a great evening.